Good day, I'm Junior Researcher Adam Southgate, and today's lecture will be covering the Aberration Sphere's Cynddaredd Rhyddhau. I'd appreciate that all hunters please subscribe as to not miss any future lectures, and also if you enjoyed the lecture and find it informative, please like the video and click the bell to ensure you do not miss any future announcements. I would also be very happy to hear your thoughts, views, and stories of your interactions with the monsters of the spheres in the comment area of this video. Also, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. So, to begin, as always, we'll start with our general announcements. Firstly, congratulations to the team led by Glitchy5420, named Generic 9344, and Huevo Bendito, who, with other hunters under their command, were able to capture nearly all of those affected with Eddard's Folly within the town of Fishguard. After assembling and receiving their loaned protective suits, the team were forced to rush into the town as those infected were all assembling on the beach, readying to enter the waters. Knowing that those infected would attack those not infected, the team immediately made their presence known as to pull them away from the water. A pitched battle broke out, with the hunters outnumbered 2-1, however with the use of crowd-control tactics, the hunters were able to pull individual infected from the attacking group one at a time, and restrain them. It took several hours, but eventually those not yet restrained realized that the fight was lost, and attempted to flee into the ocean. The hunters pushed forward, managing to tackle several to the ground, with only 8 of the late-stage infected escaping beneath the waves. Those who are obviously infected have been moved to containment until the feeding of dry goch is available, whereas those whose infected status is less easily established have been moved to quarantine until we know for sure either way. For those hunters who took part in the contract, I would like to thank you. I know it's not ideal to have been placed in quarantine after a contract, however, the Order has provided you with every luxury we are able to during your stay with us, and at the very least you are still able to access the internet during your long week of internment. Secondly, an emergency specialty contract has been issued. The situation with Geraldine and her unknown male escort has developed into a frightening situation. The two are attempting to breach our security surrounding Dry Goch. What they aim to do we cannot say, however we can be sure that it is nothing good. Our security staff is currently holding back increasing waves of monstrosities constructed by Geraldine, however they will soon be overrun. We require hunters of any rank, including apprentices, to respond to the call and aid in the mountain's defense. We ask that you bring any and all cold iron weaponry you own so that it can be shared out to bolster our line. Currently, Geraldine is sending out animate tree-like entities at us, however, our security has noticed an increase in flesh golems amongst the horde. We must hold the mountain until we can devise a way to stop the attacks. This is of the utmost importance. Please check the channel posts for details. Before we can discuss Cynddaredd Rhyddhau, we must first discuss the Abomination or Aberration Sphere somewhat. Specifically in regards to how it is the closest sphere to our own when compared to the other greater spheres that we deal with. Unlike the other 4, we have not observed anything that could be considered magic from this sphere. Instead, it appears to follow similar principles of biological adaptation that life in our sphere does. While you would be forgiven for thinking that this would mean these entities from this sphere would be less dangerous, this is unfortunately not the case. Life from the Abomination sphere has been formed under circumstances that would obliterate life within our sphere. While the rules appear to be the same, the dials have been turned up to the point of sadism. From dissection of aberration entities, we have been able to discern some unsettling realities about the sphere that forged them. All aberration entities are adapted for extreme levels of gravity as well as unbelievable levels of both heat and cold. Along with this, they also appear to have existed under tremendous amounts of competition. Each new breach from this sphere carries scars and broken carapace plates across their bodies. In fact, it is only the entities that are born within our sphere that do not carry this damage. This ridiculous crucible of an environment has formed a massive variety of life that fills an incredible number of niches, and within their home sphere they have most likely formed some level of equilibrium. The problem arises when these animals enter our sphere. Today's subject is a generational symbiotic parasite within its sphere, giving its host increased muscle mass and aggression. However, it has been co-opted by a certain Earth within our organization. Helfa Will, the Earth specializing in hunting entities from the Abomination sphere, originally made the discovery of Cynddaredd Rhyddhau due to their frequent run-ins with Cynddaredd. This large and incredibly aggressive entity always confused both the Earth and the Order's researchers, as its anatomy was that of a herbivore with flat grinding teeth and an incredibly long digestive system. It was the Earth that answered the question first, finding a small secondary animal fused into each Cynddaredd's primary brain-like organ. Dissections of the entity's brain had been performed in the past, however the secondary entity is roughly a fourth the size of the ball of a pen, making it very easy to miss. Through extensive testing with both the Order and the Earth collaborating, it was discovered what this little being was actually doing. Specifically, Cynddaredd Rhyddhau, after entering its host, creates a retrovirus to aim to modify its new home to more effectively protect itself. This retrovirus targets a few different factors within the host body. Firstly, as long as the host is intaking more protein than is being expended, the host's muscles will grow. This is to an absurd degree, where the bones or bone analog of the host will fail under the weight of the creature. However, this is not as much of a hindrance as one would assume, as the new muscle takes on the role of the bone, holding the body structure together but allowing for a range of movement that was previously impossible. Secondly, multiples of a new organ will be created throughout the body. This organ takes on the responsibility of creating new blood for the host, as the bones are now incapable of doing so. Thirdly, the host brain will be influenced to react to all active beings around itself with extreme levels of aggression. While this at first may seem counterintuitive to the symbiote's survival, it is in aid of the survival of the species as a whole, as other entities over generations learn to avoid any interactions with the host species, as they will always attack until either the other being is eliminated or they themselves are dead. This boundless aggression means that to the host's natural predators, they are far more trouble than they are worth, as even after a successful hunt, the predator will be heavily injured in most cases. Finally, the removal of natural muscle use limiters. Just as with almost all animals within our sphere, Abomination entities possess a natural limit to how much they can utilize their own strength. This is to prevent injury to the body, as otherwise an organism could literally tear itself apart. However, in the case of the host of Cynddaredd Rhyddhau, this limiter is removed, as without having to worry about bones or other solid structural body parts, the damage is reduced. With all that being said, what we are discussing today is not the natural host organism, nor the symbiote itself. Instead, it is the Earth, Helfa Will's propensity to utilize Cynddaredd Rhyddhau as an unfortunate tool. Specifically, many members of the Earth carry with them a dormant Cynddaredd Rhyddhau when they go on hunts. The entity is sealed within a small vial that is easily accessible to the hunter, and when death seems inevitable during a confrontation that has gone bad, the hunter will release the symbiotic entity into their mouths. While many of the effects of the entity do not have time to manifest, the unrelenting rage and unrestricted access to muscle strength does. This has the effect of creating a berserker in the truest of senses, allowing the hunter to ignore almost all physical damage done to them. Most of these hunters will pass shortly after the confrontation, the damage done to their bodies finally finishing them off. However, some, unfortunately, survive. I'm going to play for you an interview with one such unfortunate surviving hunter. I hope that you find it illuminating. Master Hunter Cynddaredd is floating within a large pool of sterilized water that is attached to a filtration system. His eyes and ears are covered to not allow any outside stimuli. These things together create an effective sensory deprivation chamber. He is fed and his waste is extracted through the use of tubes that enter his massive hulking form. The only way we are able to communicate is through an adaptation of the MMB that allows for my words to be transferred into his mind as thoughts, as any sounds not made by himself could possibly start an episode. Interview starts 12:42 p.m. Master Hunter Cynddaredd, how are you feeling today?
Okay, a little cold on account of the no-skin thing.
Hunter Cyndaredd's skin has long since split and fallen away due to his ridiculous size. I can adjust the heat settings for you, if you'd like.
No, it's fine, Doc. I know it'd be days before I'd feel anything.
You know we need to make changes to your environment slowly to avoid an episode.
I know, I'm just complaining for the sake of it. To be honest, I'm bored.
That's completely understandable considering your circumstance, but we do try to keep someone here to talk to you as often as possible. Beyond that, we're kind of stuck.
I know, and I appreciate it. I do. But it causes some uncomfortable thoughts.
If you don't mind me asking, what kind of thoughts?
It's just most of the time I don't know if I'm actually talking to another person or responding to my own head. When you talk, it's with my voice in my head.
I can understand how that would be disconcerting.
That helps. I don't even know what that word means, so you must be another person.
Well, I'm glad my vocabulary came to the rescue. Now, I'm going to ask you some questions about your condition, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Doc. Go ahead.
Okay, so firstly, why did you use the symbiote?
Like everyone else who used it, I thought I was done. Half my face was missing, my left arm was gone, and I knew that if I didn't take the creature with me, it would go on to kill others.
But you survived.
Yeah, survived being the word, 'cause I ain't living, just floating here in the dark.
So what happened after you killed the entity you were hunting?
I remember things coming clear again. The thing that had been ripping me apart was now paste beneath me. My hand, the only one I had left, was mangled like it had been through a press. I didn't think I would last much longer, and I didn't want to hurt anyone. So I ran into the forest to die.
But you didn't die.
No, I didn't, and let me tell you, nothing makes you feel more of a fool than thinking and accepting your own end, only for it not to come. I had several episodes over the next few days. After one, I came to at the top of a tree, but I started to notice after a few that once I came back to myself, I wasn't hungry anymore. I'd been eating what I'd killed. That's how I realized how big my problem was.
Could you please elaborate for me?
Yeah, no worries, Doc. So I ran, so I wouldn't hurt anyone while I died. But I wasn't dying. I was eating and growing. Any gear I'd had been lost or destroyed during my fight with the entity, so the most immediate escape was out, and any attempt to find hunters to put me down was also a non-starter, because I'd be putting civilians in danger to get to those hunters. So I was stuck. I kept away from people, but it's harder to avoid animals. Over the months of being lost in random rages, my body just kept growing. First my bones went ground to powder inside of me. Then after one blackout, my skin was gone. It must have been a while, because there was snow on the ground.
And how, if you don't mind me asking, were you eventually taken into custody?
Doc, you know, it's all in my file.
I know, but I'd like to get your perspective on the events.
Fine. I'd been hunting a repnir. It was pure luck that I'd stumbled upon one of their victims dead in a tree and felt that, in some way, I could be useful.
That's admirable.
Thanks. So, after coming to again, with bits of repnir all over me, I don't know, I felt like I was being watched, though I couldn't have seen or heard anyone because I stayed calm. About a day or two later, it happened. I was doing my usual, staying still and trying to block out everything around me when I saw him.
Who?
My master. They'd actually brought the old man out of retirement for me. Or maybe he'd insisted. I don't know. The rage flooded me, but when I came back, I was in the trailer of some kind of lorry. By the looks of the walls, I tried to smash my way out during the journey, but they knew what they were doing. There was no way I'd get through even during a rage. There was a lot of blackouts after that, as they transferred me from one type of holding to another, until finally I woke up in here, all plugged in. They must have gone through an entire hospital's year's supply of anesthetics to knock me out. But that's my Earth. They know how to deal with dangerous animals. Look, it's not that I'm not enjoying the chat, Doc, but when am I going to be, decommissioned? I've been ready to go for a while now, and I just can't keep doing this.
I'll have a talk with the researcher in charge of your case. Don't worry.
Thanks, Doc. Look, do you mind if we leave it there? I'm not feeling great.
It's okay. Interview ends 12:50 p.m. Master Hunter Cynddaredd was decommissioned 2 days after this interview. While the Order is reluctant to tell the Earth what they should or should not be doing, in this case I feel that it is perfectly appropriate for us to do so. While the initial idea of ensuring that the entity goes down with you is admirable, the cost is far too high. The utilization of Cynddaredd Rhyddhau robs a user of any semblance of a human life after the fact, and while yes, survival rates of those who have made use of the entity is extremely low, being less than 1%, it is still too great a cost. While your responsibility as hunters is the destruction of aggressive or dangerous entities, you also possess a greater responsibility to yourselves. And with acts such as these, you are failing in that responsibility. While the Order has no ability to mandate that this practice ends, we can highly discourage it. All who take on the role of hunter around the world are of a particular breed, and all are willing to sacrifice to protect others. This is commendable, and even something to be lauded. However, I feel that it sometimes falls to the less heroic to remind you that you are not disposable assets or weapons. You are human beings, and as such you deserve to leave this life as human beings, and not as monsters. The Order has implemented a program of group therapy, accessible to all its hunters, to hammer this point home. We hope that this will, over time, reduce the usage of such tactics in the future, as it is not only the hunters connected with the Order of Merlin that have practices such as this one. As stated, other hunter groups also have contingencies for similar situations that are also condemned by the Order due to them robbing the user of their humanity. I understand that they are meant as the last hurrah, a way of taking the entity with you. However, the danger they pose is often greater than the entity you are attempting to take with you. But that will be all. I hope you enjoyed. With Arthur's might and Merlin's wisdom, thank you.